BYU an underdog? Yeah, they should be against Arizona State.
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and your daily source to stay up to date with this, the greatest sport on planet Earth. This episode brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. I've got Richie Bradshaw of Locked On Sun Devils talk about ASU, and Kenny Dillingham could be coaching for Coach of the Year honors this week against BYU. Should we write in pen or pencil Notre Dame into the playoff? And a very special guest, UNLV wide receiver Ricky White III, will be on this very program today. So, Richie, let's start. Arizona State is favored against BYU. When the college football playoff rankings come out, they won't be ranked as high as BYU. But Arizona State's at home, and Arizona State, just a good football team, off a really good performance against Kansas State. I 100% agree with Vegas here. I'd favor the Sun Devils, and I think I'm going to pick them to win the game.
I will tell you, this to me feels like your typical sports line of like, oh, these are two really good teams. We're going to give the edge to the home team, and I think that's the right thing to do. Now, it's worth noting that in Arizona and in the Valley, there is a very big Mormon population. So I would not be surprised if this game did settle out, but you had like a 40-60 crowd. You're hoping that ASU dominates, and I think they will because this is homecoming and it's senior day for ASU. Never seen them combined, but here we are. It's going to be a big, loud crowd for no matter who's on the field. But ASU, like you said, they're playing good football right now. They're doing great on offense. They're doing good on defense. They've got something cooking with Sam Leavitt to Jordan Tyson. Cam Scadaboo, one of the best running backs in the conference, maybe even in the country. Brian Ward, terrific defensive coordinator. They've just got a lot going for them right now, and they're playing at a rate where they can play with anyone. Like, this is a team that plays up to their competition. When they have faced good teams this year, they've been able to take care of business.
Yeah, they have been really impressive, and I thought picking them last by the Big 12 media was completely preposterous, but I did not see this level of play already. I thought this would be Dillingham year 3, but he is really ascending up the ranks of one of the best young coaches in all of college football. And the reason that I think it is appropriate for Arizona State to be favored is not just because they are at home. Now, the kicking situation is not phenomenal for BYU. We'll give the special teams edge in this game to BYU, but offense, defense, I don't give BYU a major edge on either side. And heck, I might lean Arizona State for the offensive side of things with how they played last week at home against a Kansas team that's more known for offense than defense. They did not look great, but I don't think a lot of people know about Sam Leavitt and the way that he is playing football. And this is not a guy who is some on the rise, low-rated recruit. They're getting the most out of it. Like, this was a blue-chip quarterback prospect, Richie, who beat out Jaden Rashada, the former 5-star, to be the starting quarterback, and I think we're seeing why.
We are. And Leavitt, it's so funny. If you look at week 1 against Wyoming, you see the talent. Like, you're like, okay, there's some stuff here. If you were to have shown me the last 3 weeks of the way he played back in week 1, I would have been like, wow, that's a really good looking second, maybe third year. If you told me this was 2-3 months down the road, I would have been flabbergasted because he's playing as good as any quarterback in the Big 12 right now. Like, you have Shedeur Sanders, and I'm not sure who's playing better than him. I know the Baylor quarterback has been playing really well lately, but there's not a lot of guys that are doing what Sam Leavitt is doing right now. Since the bye week, 3 games, 9 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He's had 3 touchdown passes in each of those games. The first 2 games, he barely ran it. He was like, I'm just going to beat you with my arm. This past weekend, he was like, I can still do both. In case you forgot, I am a dual threat. And it's so impressive to me because early in the year, you have Cam Scadaboo. Teams would say, we're going to stack the box. We're going to force you to beat us with your arm, which still didn't really work because ASU is going to give Scadaboo 25 touches a game. But earlier in the year, these would be tighter football games because Sam Leavitt is really young. He's really inexperienced. And last two games against UCF and against K-State, they tried that. They said, we're going to take away your running game. You're going to beat us with your arm. And Leavitt said, yeah, bet. I will absolutely do that. I've got Jordan Tyson. I've got Shimon Mateer. I've got weapons to throw the ball to. And he's responding and he's playing. He's phenomenal. He's phenomenal. He doesn't look like a redshirt freshman at this point in time.
The College Game Day crew might not have been watching the game they played in Manhattan last week, but guess what? I was because battle of 7-2 football teams, it turns out, is indeed something you should keep your eye on. Arizona State gets the win. This is crazy to say, Richie, but the Sun Devils control their own destiny to make the college football playoff. I don't know where they're going to be in the rankings. The AP and coaches poll have them in the 20s. I think that's absurd. They just went into Kansas State and proved that they were the better football team. They won by 10, and it wasn't even that close. I mean, this game was a rout. This was Arizona State from the jump, and Kansas State had no answers. And what impresses me, Richie, is when a coach takes over a rebuild like Kenny Dillingham did, and he comes from a particular side of the ball, you expect that side of the ball to get fixed quickly, or at least that's what you would like to see. Think Oklahoma with Brent Venables, for instance. The offense is a mess, but hey, he's a defensive guy. Is the defense playing well? Yeah, I think Oklahoma's defense is pretty darn solid. But with Dillingham, they look like they're playing phenomenally complementary football to me right now, and that they can win a game with defense, they can win a game with offense. They can win a game throwing the ball, they can win a game leaning on Cam Scatterbu running the ball. High scoring, low scoring. The only disadvantage I see for them in this game against BYU is special teams, and I think they have the ability to make sure that that doesn't come into play.
We did make a field goal.
K-State. I changed my mind.
Which is
changed my mind. They made a field goal. Whew.
In the last 3 weeks.
Should we just bring the coach's trophy to Tempe now? I mean,
dude, you might as well. I mean, I will tell you that there was some champagne popping in that locker room for Parker Lewis when he made that field goal. But no, I agree with you. There's not really anywhere that BYU has a distinct advantage over ASU. It's still a good BYU team. It's not a team that's going to come into Tempe and more than likely lose by 2 possessions. I do expect it to be a close game. I think it's going to be a slugfest, but ASU should have the edge just about everywhere offensively and defensively. You've got, and who's playing like an S-tier quarterback right now the last 3 weeks. You've got the people's running back, ladies and gentlemen, in Cam Scatterbu. Jordan Tyson, one of the 5 best receivers in the Big 12 over the last month, and no one's talking about him. Defense, phenomenal. We mentioned Brian Ward earlier, one of the best defensive coordinators that you have not heard of. And they
I've heard of him. Everybody else maybe not, but I have.
Nope. And I love the hire when they made it last year, and it looks even better this year. They've got studs on both sides of the football. The thing I love about the defense is you're going to look at it and you're going to be like, I don't really see any superstars. And it's like, that's okay, because everybody does what they need to do. They preach, do your 1/11th. Do your job. Everybody else is going to do their job. And that's what you see from ASU. A lot of people call them a bend but don't break defense either. To me, Spencer, that's not fair. A bend but don't break defense is you gave up 400 yards, but hey, you were able to get off the field a couple of times because of a punt.
And you hold them to like 18 points.
Right. This defense, they'll have a bad drive. And then the next drive, they'll go, you know what? We got to get a turnover right here. We need a 3-and-out. And boom, they do it. End of the game, last drive. All right, we're up. We're not going to let them tie the game. Boom, they don't let them tie the game. That's not bend but don't break. That's stepping up to the occasion. And the defense has been doing that all year long. It's a great unit.
That's the Arizona State angle of things. Fear not, BYU fans. For this week on the show, we'll present the BYU side of that argument, just not right now. Patience is a virtue, so they say. Richie Bradshaw, Locked On Sun Devils. Richie, enjoyed it as always, my man.
It's always a pleasure to come on here and talk ball with you, my guy.
How likely is Notre Dame making the playoff? Is it 100%? Is it 90%? Is it 80%? They've got Army this week, but they're a 2-touchdown favorite. What do you make of the Irish right now? That's coming up next. Locked On College Football fans, listen up. You need to download the Roy app, because if you've heard us talk about Roy, you know what they're doing. They're revolutionizing the NIL industry. Roy allows you, the fan, to have a say in who gets the NIL money. And here's what you love about Roy. If the player transfers, you get your money back. How about that? You can show your support for my Roy Player of the Week here on the show or anybody else in college football because everybody is in there. And this week, I'm going with Sam Leavitt. We were just talking about Arizona State and singing their praises, and Sam Leavitt's a big reason why. A guy is playing really good football, leads the Sun Devils into Manhattan. They were up 21-0. I mean, they were up 3 possessions against Kansas State in that game. Yeah, that starts with the quarterback. It doesn't end there, though. Sam Leavitt, though, my Roy Player of the Week. Download the Roy app or go to joinroy.com to join today. Use promo code LOCKEDON. Every athlete from every team is there. That's promo code LOCKEDON at joinroy.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited. Go to joinroy.com for full terms. Roy, support the players. Change the game. And do you want to go to a game? Any kind of game? Game Time's the place to get your tickets. Game Time has Game Time Picks, which makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, whatever you're looking for, they have got it. And they give you a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy so you know exactly what to expect. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. That's LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Should we all mentally and perhaps physically just write Notre Dame into the playoff right now? Well, if they go 11-1, the answer is yes. But what if they go 10-2? That's Tyler Wojciak, Locked On Fighting Irish, joining me here. Let's begin with that question, Tyler. What if Notre Dame, say, loses to USC on the road last week of the regular season? Is that a playoff team?
Honestly, no. I mean, I guess theoretically they could get in depending on what happens in the rest of college football. But even as a Notre Dame fan, I don't think they would deserve to be in with 2 losses with this schedule. I don't think that'll happen. But if it does, I just think that the lack of a strength of schedule, the lack of quality wins for this team will come back to bite them. I don't think they would make the playoff in that scenario, and I really wouldn't argue that much against it.
Yeah, I'd have a hard time putting them in. I think if Florida State had been good, then perhaps, but Florida State is what, the worst team in Power 4?
No, Purdue, who Notre Dame also beat.
Boy, that's
Purdue's
tough.
like a JV high school team.
I mean, and Florida State isn't?
They're bad, but Purdue is a different level.
Purdue's put up 21 points in a game this year more than once, haven't they?
They gave up 66.
Okay, well, I'm not saying they're good. I'm just saying we're setting the bar low. But anyway, bringing it back to Notre Dame here. One thing that I've watched with the Irish, and we're going to get into the Army matchup in the second half of this segment, but one thing that makes me feel confident in Notre Dame's ability to end the year 11-1, Tyler, is I feel like they're playing a really strong brand of complementary football. I watch them each week, and I see the offense do good things. I think the defense has been good all year. Yes, that includes the NIU game. I don't think the defense was the problem when they gave up 16 points. Yeah, it's more than you'd maybe like, but guess what? You give up less than 20 points in the Power 4 ranks, you should win the football game every time. I think the offense has really made strides from the early portion of the season. Is that what you have seen as well?
They have. And a big reason why is the quarterback, Riley Leonard, and the chemistry he has with offensive coordinator Mike Denbrock. It looked like early on in the season, they were trying to figure things out. Denbrock was trying to figure out what worked for Riley. Riley was getting used to Mike Denbrock's offense. And really, if you think about the circumstances, it shouldn't be that big of a surprise because Riley Leonard had ankle surgery, 2 ankle surgeries in the offseason, missed all of spring practice, missed a decent chunk of summer workouts in his one and only year with the team and a brand new offensive coordinator. So it's not like he had any prior experience in the system. And it took him a few weeks, but there were some signs that Miami, Ohio game, despite a really ugly start, that he was starting to figure some things out in the passing game, looked better against Louisville. And after that bye week, this team has looked totally different. Starting with that game against Stanford, he's throwing the ball a lot better. We always knew that Riley Leonard was a great runner, and now everything else around him looks better because Riley Leonard and the offensive coordinator are in sync.
Yeah, they have been a dominant team for the last month and a half or so. At this point, you go look at their box scores and you go, wait a minute. They beat Navy really badly. They beat Louisville, who's a solid team. I mean, Louisville lost to Stanford, but guess what? Crazy things happen on the farm. That's just the way. Stanford pulling an upset in the ACC, what was as inevitable as anything in college football. I couldn't come up with one example right there in real time. I'm not going to edit it out because I feel like that's lying to people. But that was always going to take place, but Notre Dame just continues to look really, really good. Riley Leonard has gotten involved running the football. He's Notre Dame's second leading rusher so far this year. People remember that Jaden Daniels a year ago, who Mike Denbrock was the offensive coordinator for, ran for over 1,000 yards. Is that the gear that has been unlocked for this Irish offense?
They've actually been trying to run him less because the quality of competition is a little bit different. But whenever they have to, like when they get in the red zone, that ball's going to 13. He's tucking it, and he's going to score. He has scored 13 rushing touchdowns this season. So it's an asset. They've used that a little bit less, but they've really tried to lean on him as a passer a little bit more in situations that are better suited for him and his skill set. But when he scrambles now, like that's when he's most effective. If a play breaks down, it is really difficult for the defense to try and stop him because he is such a big guy. He's 6'4", 220 plus pounds, and he is very sneaky fast. So when he's out there in the open field, man, it's a tough test for defenses.
Yeah, and it's part of the reason that I liked him coming over from Duke. I know he was coming off the injuries and such, but he looks healthy to me, and he's got a big arm. He's really mobile. He's always felt like a gamer to me. Like he's just going to do whatever is required to win the football game. He'll put his body on the line for better or worse, but so far it's been so good. Real quick, defensively for Notre Dame before we talk about Army, I feel like they've quietly been one of the best defenses in college football this year.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about how good they could be if they didn't have the injuries that they've had to deal with all season long. I mean, they lost their top two best edge rushers. They lost a future first-round pick, or maybe not first-round pick anymore because of this hip injury, and Benjamin Morrison. So they lost their best corner, two of their best edge rushers, their starting defensive tackle, Howard Cross, who was on some preseason All-American watch list. He's been in and out of the lineup all year. He wasn't playing in this most recent game against Virginia, and it has not mattered at all. They're third in scoring defense. They're first in turnovers gained. They are an elite unit, and they have just been dominant every single week. Even in that Northern Illinois game, the only touchdown they gave up in that game was an 80-yard pass that is quite literally the luckiest play I've ever seen inside Notre Dame Stadium. The quarterback threw it to a different guy. It just so happened the ball goes in between two defenders' arms. There's no one behind him. He catches the ball, goes in for a touchdown. It's the only touchdown they scored that game. And I'm not saying that's the only reason why Notre Dame lost that, but that is what it takes to beat this defense. Absolutely insane luck because no one's doing it with skill right now.
Let's talk about the game against Army this week. It's a big game for Notre Dame, as you and I discussed. Probably an elimination game for Notre Dame in the playoff race here. And it's an elimination game most likely for Army in this spot, but Army has so much to gain. If the Knights can find a way to win this ball game, Tyler, I don't know that it's crazy to say the playoff committee would suddenly look at ranking them ahead of Boise State as the highest-ranked Group of 5 conference champion come the end of the season. They'll match up with Tulane in the American Conference Championship game no matter what, but the playoff implications are squarely on this Saturday for Army. How do you see this matchup playing out?
I'm honestly just curious what you think, because the last time you had me on was before the Navy game, and you were like, I want to take them outright. And I was like, go ahead, do it. You're going to lose that one. Yeah. I felt very confident going into that game, and my confidence was justified.
Yeah, I'm scarred. Let's say I'm very scarred from that one. I thought Navy would hang around, but the turnovers, as we mentioned, Notre Dame is very good at doing that. Navy just couldn't overcome, and they made too many mistakes. And I think a hallmark of the service academies, typically in the past couple of years, when they have good runs, like Air Force last year, Army and Navy this year, is they don't hurt themselves. They run the ball, they play good defense, they protect it, they control the clock. That's the sort of game I think they have to get into. I don't know that Army can go up and down the field on this Notre Dame defense, but coming into this game, I want to be confident in Army's ability to hang around, but Notre Dame is just a wagon to me, Tyler. And with the way it went against Navy, I don't know the Army commits that many mistakes in this football game, but I certainly have a hard time feeling like, oh, Notre Dame's on major upset alert here. I'm going to be watching the game, and there's a world in which Army wins. I think there are a lot more scenarios in which Notre Dame wins and covers.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a lot different than the Navy game. I don't expect Army to make all the mistakes that Navy did. But when I look at this team, I think that game against North Texas was pretty concerning if you're an Army backer in this one, because that offense only put up 14 points in North Texas. The way that Army could beat Notre Dame is if they have their signature 20-play, like 9-minute drives, and they're able to do that a couple times, because
the kind of drive that makes you crazy to play against in EA College Football 25. that
where the
drive.
offense is just sitting on the sideline, and then maybe they get cold, they get out of rhythm, and they don't score as much. That is going to be what Army tries to do in this game. But I do think that Notre Dame is going to create some turnovers, because the thing about Army, you look at their strength of schedule, it's one of the worst in the entire country. And I think that when you run the option, and everything about the triple option is built on timing and execution, and that becomes a lot different when you go play the schedule that they played all season long, and then you play a team and a defense excuse me, that is as big and as fast and as long as the Notre Dame defense. I think it throws everything off, and I think that's a big reason why Navy was like so shell-shocked early on, because Notre Dame players were getting to the ball much quicker than any other team that they played. I think I think Army will be more prepared to handle that, but I think that over time, they're not going to be able to sustain enough offense for them to win this game. Even though they have the number 2 scoring defense in the country right now, I do think Notre Dame is going to be able to put up some points in this one. It might be a little close in the third quarter, but I expect the Irish to pull away late.
I think Army has to keep both teams under 24 points. I think that's the ceiling for Army's offense against this Notre Dame defense. So if the Irish get to 28, 30 or so, I think Army will have some real problems there. Tyler Wojciak, Locked On Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Tyler, appreciate it as always.
Of course, brother.
UNLV is one of those group of 5 teams that'll be keeping an eye on this Notre Dame Army matchup. And what is it that makes UNLV click? Well, one of their players is going to join me to discuss that and more next. First, let's talk about Mint Mobile. I love a great deal as much as the next guy, but I'm not going to crawl through a bed of hot coals or run into a hailstorm in order to get it. But Mint Mobile makes it easy. No hoops, no BS. Mint Mobile makes it easy to get wireless for $15 a month. Just $15 a month with the purchase of a 3-month plan. And anybody can go and get that right now on the nation's largest 5G network. Yeah, that's right. You can get unlimited talk, text on the nation's largest 5G network. What else are you looking for? What else? Mint Mobile is giving you everything that you want. High-speed data, Mint Mobile. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. Of course, they're making it easy for you to get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month. Go to mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. That's mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month. mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional fees, taxes, restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. Check them out at mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. It's not every day I get an athlete here on the show, but I've got Ricky White III of UNLV, who are very much in the running to be a college football playoff team at the moment. Sure, they might need a dash of help from Colorado State, but help is often given in college football to those who hold their own. Ricky, it's great to have you here on the show, and I want to dive right in. What is it about this UNLV team that is so different from Rebels football teams in the past?
And really just the culture, the culture that, the rest of the coaching staff, Coach Odom, Coach Marion, Coach Alexander, Coach Sheaves, and, the rest of the staff has just brought in. I feel like, all of the guys brought in, bought into the culture that they brought, from their universities, and, the things that Coach Odom is just, embedded into this system and into this university. So it's a brotherhood here. And, all the guys are just buying into the system.
That's awesome. It's been an impressive thing to watch from afar because, as I'm sure you and everybody else in that building knows, it's been a rough couple of decades for UNLV football. They have not been on the map. They would not get talked about on a show like this or any others, but suddenly you look up, and with a 12-team playoff, the allure of getting there and getting to the Mountain West Conference championship game provides that opportunity. How much of a discussion is that in your guys' locker room to say, hey, if we keep winning football games, if we have an opportunity to get here, there's a chance that we can get into the college football playoff?
Right. It's a major, it's talked about every day in our facility. Just like how you hit on, if we continue to, win, I feel like everything's going to play its part. That's all we got to do is win out our last 2 games. Hopefully, Colorado State gets the L in their last 2 games, and we're in there. Once we get that chance to, get a rematch against Boise in the championship game, we're going to give it our all. It just, go 110%.
Yeah, it's been a really competitive race and still is for the Group of 5 playoff spot. You guys are in the mix. Certainly Boise has to be viewed as the favorite in that sense. Army's got a big game against Notre Dame this week, Tulane as well. As a guy who committed to play football at Michigan State out of high school and has now made your way to the Group of 5 ranks at UNLV, what's your take on how the expanded playoff has elevated the experience for teams and fan bases alike in the G5 world?
I would definitely say it's a blessing. It gives the players in the G5 conference, a viewpoint, allows them to showcase their talent. Just because you go to a Group of 5 school, that doesn't mean you're not worthy of playing at a P4 school, or it allows players like us to be seen and be nationally televised, just noticed, on the big stage, really, and it's a blessing. That's all you can ask for.
One of the reasons that you guys have been noticed, obviously you're winning football games, but something that people that don't follow UNLV super closely are probably familiar with is the go-go offense with Brennan Marion, your offensive coordinator, something that's kind of his own creation, his own concoction. It's not like anything else in college football. There are a lot of two-back sets and crazy motions and triple options and all that sort of stuff. What is it about that offense that allows it to succeed?
It's very unique, man. That's really how you put it. Coach Marion's a former receiver, so he loves to get his playmakers the ball, and then that's really the main factor about the go-go offense is getting the playmakers the ball, putting people in positions to get mismatches. Whether it's me running back, tight ends, even the quarterback having that read option. So it's a very unique offense. I'm thankful to be a part of it. And the sky's the limit for that offense and for us.
You guys have had a bit of a unique change this season. You started with Matthew Sluka at the quarterback position. Then the change takes place in the middle of the year. Sluka leaves the program, and Haj Malik Williams steps into that quarterback role. What was that like as a wide receiver to kind of hear all of that unfold and then adapt to it in practice and ultimately put a product on the field where you guys are still winning football games after a big win this past weekend against San Diego State?
So that past situation was very crazy to deal with. At the time I didn't know anything of it. The Sluga didn't announce it to any of the players. So once we found out the news, everybody was very surprised about it. But Hodge was one of the first quarterbacks to come in. He came in during spring. Everybody bought into it. He even bought into the system. He was very vocal. At the quarterback position, you have to be very vocal. You have to be able to lead. Players have to be able to follow, really. So he did that coming in early at the spring. So, man, we was already kind of used to him being at that quarterback position, when that quarterback position got changed to him being as a starter. So, we just continue to follow coach's lead, Hodge lead, and, we're doing what we're doing now, man. So.
You're the leading receiver on this UNLV team, no matter who has been playing quarterback this year. What has that been like for you to try to undergo all of those changes, but still keep yourself consistent in your preparation and continue producing the way that this offense needs you to?
It's really about keeping your habits, whether it's on or off the field, whether it's staying healthy, stretching before and after practice, getting treatment. It's always the little things that allows me to be consistent in my game. Also, to build more chemistry with Hodge, getting extra rest before and after practice. Like I said, watching extra film, of the practice that we had in against opponents that were playing, that week. So, just really build chemistry and then stand on top of, the little things.
What's your favorite part about Haj Malik Williams as a quarterback?
As a quarterback, man, he's a leader. You can't go wrong with a leader, man. He has a great ball, great spiral balls. It's a great catchable ball. He does a great job of pre-snap awareness. Just how smart he is. He's a 6-year senior, so he's played a lot of snaps and just got a lot of reps at the game of football. So he's very smart at the game, and you can't ask for much more at that position.
Barry Odom has done a really good job in the last couple of years, as we've discussed, elevating this UNLV program to a place that it really hasn't been in my entire lifetime. Now, granted, I'm not incredibly old, but still, you can go back a ways further, and it just hasn't been relevant on the national stage. But he's gotten them to the point where they get discussed on shows like this one or others as a realignment piece to say, hey, the Pac-12's over here rebuilding. They might want to go get UNLV because, look, it's possible to win in Las Vegas. That stuff is certainly outside noise, and I'm an outside sort of guy. But on the inside, do you hear those sorts of chatters? Or is that something that doesn't come into your vision and you guys are just focused on playing football?
Yeah, we really just focused on playing football, man. We trying to finish out, this November strong. Coach remind us every day, games you win in November, you will be remembered. Now I feel like that goes a long way with our group of guys, man. So we really just focused on winning games, on finishing out the season strong. Therefore, we can get a chance of being in the 12-team playoff this year.
The NIL space is something that I hear about a lot from college football fans. There are plenty of people that are not fans of it because of this, that, and the other thing. I think there are a lot of people as well that are a fan of an aspect or a component of it, but maybe not the whole rollout that the NCAA came with. But you've got an NIL deal with Max Crosby of the Las Vegas Raiders. Why don't you tell people about that?
And it's Sacks. I'm just excited to team up with Sacks, man. They're very game changing, and I'm a game changer on the field. So we definitely correlate, and I'm excited to collaborate with them.
And Saks is a company that ends in 2 X's, and Max Crosby, of course, is that sort of guy. Why did Max Crosby pick you to be one of the ambassadors for the company?
I feel like we have similarity in the way we take in preparing the game, man. Max Crosby is a legend here in Vegas. Everybody looks up to him. He's one of the greatest, to be a part of Las Vegas Raiders. So, and I'm one of the greatest to be here, to be able to play at UNLV. So I feel like, it was a no-brainer for me to, collaborate with, Max and Stack. So it's a blessing.
Last thing for you, Ricky. What are you most looking forward to coming down the closing stretch of this 2024 season?
Man, finishing out the season strong, getting the chance to rematch against Boise in the championship game, Mountain West championship game, and potentially 12-team playoff. I would love that.
I think a lot of people would love to see that rematch. It was a great game in Vegas. It was a great environment as well down there at Allegiant Stadium. The Boise fans traveled. The UNLV fans showed up. I think it'd be a fun rematch. So I'm rooting for you guys to get another crack at the Broncos, to be sure. Ricky White III, wide receiver at UNLV. Ricky, thanks so much for stopping by, man.
Thank you, Spencer.
Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. And until then, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.